Hello and welcome everyone to another InventRight TV show. My name is Andrew Krauss and we're going to do a whole hour of live Q&A. If somebody could type in yes that you can hear me to confirm that my microphone is working properly. Once I did one of these and it wasn't, and I think people were texting us or calling our main line. So if somebody could type in yes, I'll wait for that. There we go. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate that. So just for those of you that are brand new, to give you a heads up on what licensing is, it's renting or leasing your product idea to a company. I say renting or leasing because if they don't perform, you get it back. Hold on, let me get a chair up at the right height here. Get the camera there fixed there too. Hold on a sec. There we go. That's pretty. All right. Um, So when you're licensing, you're renting or leasing the product to a large company. And I say renting or leasing. Sometimes people use the word, I want to sell my patent or I want to sell my idea. It's really renting or leasing is better. You want to say license to a company. And then basically that big company, it's their money, so you don't need to raise money. It's their workforce, so you don't need to hire employees, and you tap into their distribution. So if they're selling shovels and they're already in Home Depot and Lowe's and Target and Walmart, okay, then you're in those places. So it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a lot more attractive than starting a company for most people. There's nothing wrong with starting a company, but it's brutal to start a company. In most cases, you need to raise hundreds of thousands just to get started, and maybe even more, 4, 5, 600,000 just to get started. In some cases, millions. Depends on what type of product it is. And trust me, people aren't ready out there to give you that kind of money. So I'm going to turn up the AC a little bit here. Hold on a sec. It's getting hot in here. There we go. So to know that you don't need to spend 10,000 on a patent because you can do a provisional patent application for 75 bucks. To know you don't need to spend 5 grand or more on a prototype. Quite often that depends on the product. But of a lot of our students, they can just do a virtual prototype or cobble something together and see what the interest level is first. And to know you don't need to start a business or raise money or hire employees. These are all reasons that make licensing very, very attractive and very, very doable. So let's just jump in. We've been doing these Q&As, or I've been doing these Q&As on YouTube since the beginning of the pandemic, and it's been fun. Typically, it usually takes a while for people to check in. Typically, we'll have 75 to 115 people or so do this. So it's kind of interesting. Sometimes when I ask for clarification, I go, hey, so-and-so, can you type in more? And then I don't see people do that. I don't know if they wandered off or whatever. So if I need some more clarification, clarification, excuse me, I might ask for that. And if you could promptly type that in, that would be great. So as I hack up a lung here from swallowing water down the wrong pipe. All right, so let's get going. And my name is Andrew Krauss. I co-founded InventRight with Stephen Key over 21 years ago, and we've been coaching and mentoring inventors ever since. We've had students in 65 countries, and we have students licensing stuff all the time because our students are actually doing the work. When a lot of other inventors are not, or they're throwing some money at an invention promotion companies, pretending to do the work and go, oh, I gave him 12 grand, nothing happened. Oh, gee. But when you do the work yourself, you know that things are happening. And we coach and mentor our students one-on-one. We also have a group coaching program called Academy. And then we do free education on our YouTube. And we really don't hold back on a lot of stuff. And we're doing this Q&A right here. So I'm going to ask in advance this time, if you really like the Q&A, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us. I'd like to get to 80,000 subscribers within the next 6 to 8 months. That would be great. And all you have to do is click there. And when you watch our videos, give us a thumbs up, that sort of thing. Kevin says, Andrew, after doing a patent search, I've found patents similar to my idea. I'm wondering in general, are workarounds on utility patents achievable even if a unique function is the same? There's no way I can answer that, Kevin. So I would, finding similar patents most of the time. I exaggerate. Oh, by the way, any advice I give you today is not considered legal advice. Please seek the services of an attorney if you're seeking legal advice. That is my disclaimer as well. Um, and so, just for the sake of making a point, who cares about patents? Patents patents just means somebody ran out and threw a bunch of money at a patent attorney. Doesn't mean the patent makes sense, doesn't mean the product makes sense, doesn't mean the product is manufacturable at a reasonable price, doesn't mean it's manufacturable at all. Okay? And so lots and lots and lots of patents are garbage to very weak. So you might say, well, Andrew, well, you guys tell me I should file a provisional, so are you telling me my provisional is going to be garbage week? No, because if you think about all the variations, workarounds, improvements, and throw them in your provisional, you're doing a better job than most inventors. But to answer your question, Kevin, when you're concerned about other patents, what they've been granted may not be a problem for you. But I wouldn't even look at the patents. I would look and do a market search first. And I'm not saying don't do a patent search, but do a market search. I'm always boggles my mind that people do a patent search. When you come up with an idea, the first thing you do is never ever a patent search. It's always a market search on Google Images, Google Shopping, Amazon. Yeah, if it's an industrial product, probably Google Images is going to show up more than shopping and Amazon. But and you really want to look at everything that's in the space of your invention, the micro category of your invention. So if it's a car air freshener, you need to know every freaking car freshener out there. And you need to understand that market. Okay, there's these prices over here. There's like 8 products that are like this, like 5 like this. Almost no inventors do that. People tell me they do it, and I do a 30-second search, and I'm like, what's this and that? And they're like, oh, really? And so you got to use the right keywords. So to study all auto accessories would be completely overwhelming. You couldn't do that in 2 to 6 hours. But to study all the car air fresheners, you could probably get that done and be an absolute expert in car fresheners in 4 to 6 hours, and it's fun. So if you do that searching up front before you have an idea, people have fun with it. The problem is you come up with an idea, now you're searching for it, and you have anxiety, and then people have just don't try to search that hard. And what you're searching for is not to prove that nothing like your product is out there, everything else sucks and yours is better. That you might as well not even do your search if that's your mindset, which it is for a lot of inventors. Well, I haven't found it. And I'm like, well, I don't care if you found that or not. What else is out there? Because there's going to be stuff that offers kind of similar benefit and or kind of like you need to understand the category of the micro category of your invention. So if you're doing a car air freshener, you need to know, okay, there's those old little trees you hang from your windshield, and then there's ones that go on the vent and it has some liquid in there. You need to look at like what different scents they have. Are they saying it's natural? Do they not care? Is it chemicals? What's the price range? And most inventors never do this. So Kevin, if you're doing a patent search, you haven't done that, forget about the stupid patent search. Do a market search, okay? Figure out if your product makes sense. And so why am I saying that? Because when you do a market search, you may change what your product is, which will also reflect what you look up in the prior patents as well. So your product may change. So is it achievable to work around utility patents? Not only is it achievable, but our students are able to do it about 90% of the time. So 90% of the 95% of the time, when our students find patents that they think are an issue, when you take a look at them, we realize they aren't. Like I remember one of our coaches said, I had this product and it had a hook on, it had a way of attaching to something else. And they thought we're all concerned about this patent. Oh, but the drawing looks just like it. But then when they looked at the claims, they were just literally, because the patent was garbage, which they got an issued patent. So it's not like, oh, if you have an issued patent, nobody can do it. It's just like, what issued? What claims did you get in your patent? What are you protecting about this invention? So you don't patent an invention. You patent pieces of it, and people can't do those pieces or that have those functionality and utility. That's the way I like to explain it. So in this particular one, they were so specific with their hanging mechanism. The student was like, well, that's not a problem. I can just do it this way. And I'm like, yeah, you're not violating their patent. But they were freaking out because they saw a picture that was similar. Okay. So you absolutely can work around these patents, but first figure out what your product is by doing a market search, because it may change. And don't waste your time getting obsessed with patent searches. Um, okay, so now I'm not saying don't do a patent search. Not saying that. I'm saying do a market search first, just to clarify. Um, Melissa, hi Andrew. I have 2 interested companies in my product, both from different countries. They would want to go forward. Should I license to both? Just do a non-exclusive. Our students regularly get interest from multiple companies. You should move forward with them both as if the other one doesn't exist. And quite often one will fall off. Or we have 5 companies and 4 will fall off. And our negotiation coach, Paul, will guide our students to interview these companies, and you'll figure out which one would be better to license to. You got to ask certain questions, got to ask it a certain way. You got to move the deal forward. Now, you said in particular they're in different countries. So if they distribute to different distribution channels and they're not stepping on each other's toes, you might be able to do a license to both of them. But you need to interview them about what countries they sell in and a bunch of other stuff. So, but it's very normal to get interest from more than one company. And it's very normal for companies to fall off. So you don't want to choose now, move forward with them both. And have the discussions and things. And if one of them falls off, well, then you're left with one, right? So don't assume because you got initial interest from 2 that those both are going to be a done deal. Initial interest is not a done deal. Deidre, hi Andrew, love you guys. Thank you, Deidre. Caleb, hi Andrew. Last week I requested more info on Smart IP. You did lightly respond. Probably wasn't me responding. It was probably one of our customer service people, because that's probably a simple one. They move my email into a folder of the more complicated stuff. Can you please go into more detail? For example, struggling with my PPA. So I don't, and then again later, maybe you and Steve could put together videos on dummy PPAs. Sample PPAs are dangerous, we've found, because people try to, like, they look at a PPA somebody's done on a whoopee cushion and they're trying to make it apply to their kitchen device, and they're chopping little pieces there. And so that's what I've found Smart IP helps with. And you really need to actively think about your PPA and what needs to be in it, and think about those variations, workarounds, improvements. So I don't understand if you've actually purchased Smart IP, or Caleb, or you're just struggling with it. You need more info about it. So if you could type in, I'll go to the bottom of the chat and I'll get to you. Okay. Melissa said, if I use Paul at InventRight to assist me in negotiating, Paul's our licensing coach. Sorry, our negotiation coach. If I use Paul at InventRight to assist me in negotiating my contract, will I still need a licensing attorney? Yeah, the way I explain it is Paul gets our students to 95% done. And quite often, to Kevin's, or no, it was Melissa's point about having interest from more than one company, deals will fall off. They decide, well, they talk to manufacturing, or they talk to some more marketing people, and now they decide they're not going to move forward. But when a deal gets to 95% done, and our negotiation coach Paul will help you get it as far as possible and get everyone to 95%, but some of them aren't just going to get there. I mean, that's normal. You get interest from people all the time. At that point, when it's 95% done, he's helped you go back and forth with the company. Then he'll say, you just need a licensing attorney for an hour or 2 to dot the I's and cross the T's. We know a couple licensing attorneys that, because the inventor was our student, because they know Paul got him so far along, they do it for extremely cheap. I think it was like, don't quote me on this price in the future, but I think like $350 or something, which is like nothing. You could easily spend, if you got interest and you went to a licensing attorney, you could easily spend the entire price of our 6-month coaching program talking to one attorney for one deal, and then he kills the deal and you still get a bill. So that's like nothing. But we're not attorneys, so we always tell our students at the end, look, even though we know that all the deal points have been hashed out and Paul is guiding the student to guide the company on what changes need to be made, and their attorney is changing it most of the time and sending it back, and Paul's talking with you about those changes, which are acceptable, which are not, which things to fight for, which things not to fight for. But when that gets hashed out, and Paul will say, this is good contract. um, there's not much for that licensing attorney to do. So we know two licensing attorneys that work with our students because there's not much for them to do. Most licensing attorneys would never do that. They want to get a grant, many couple, two, three, $4,000 out of you. Now, another thing that's really cool about what we do is when our students have been through a couple deals, we want them to become empowered to get deals themselves to 95% done without our negotiation coach. So you could get interest from as many companies as you want. If you can't hash out the major deal points, why in God's name would you spend two, three, four, $500 an hour with a licensing attorney? It's just not necessary. So, one of the things that you guys have gotten if you've been watching our YouTube show pretty heavily, I'm sure, is that we save you from spending 10 grand on a patent. You file a provisional patent application. But on the tail end of things, for those of you that are in the game, you don't want to be blowing tons of money with a licensing attorney every time you get a little interest, because they're notorious deal killers. They'll nitpick the deal to death, and before you know it, you got a dead deal because they want to get more billable hours, and you still get a big bill from them. And there's earlier stage negotiations before a contract, a lot of stuff. If you don't handle that right, you're not getting to a contract. Licensing attorneys absolutely suck at that. They get all legal and their attorney and your attorney start fighting, and screw that. That's no good. So Paul's very level-headed, and he'd be like, okay, there's 5 issues with this contract, and there's 3 things missing. Let's get them. This is just a random example. Let's get them saying yes. Let's go back. They'll typically always say yes to these 3 things. Get them saying yes, and then let's hit them up with these other things. Very strategic. That's not the way licensing attorneys handle it, or at least most of them. I'm sure there's some ones out there that might handle it right, but why do you want to pay $200, $300, $400 an hour? So it's not just about saving the money. You worked hard to get this deal on the table. You don't want them to kill it. And I've talked to so many inventors that have had licensing attorneys kill deals for them. It's mind-boggling. Not our students, but inventors thinking like, well, I just need somebody to close the contract. They got a little initial interest. No, you didn't move the deal forward. You're not at that point yet. So let's see. Okay, Caleb clarified on Smart IP. I haven't purchased Smart IP yet. I would just like more info on how the software works. I have a hand tool I've developed. Maybe that'll help you explain how the software would help me. Thanks. Well, yeah, you go into our software, Smart IP. It's $99, which is cheap, and you can file 1 PPA with that one time. When we give it to our students, they can file unlimited during their 6-month membership. But you go in there and you tell it if it's a mechanical device, or if it's a game, or if it's if it's a design, what type of product is it, and then it starts to give you kind of a template, and then there's videos with patent attorney Jane Quinn talking, and he guides you through filing it. And the thing that I always add to what Smart IP says is always think about the variations, workarounds, improvements, include that in your provisional. So Caleb, it costs next to nothing. I've found we have an attorney now that for almost all our students, they do their own provisional patent. But every once in a while, we get a paranoid inventor like, oh, I know I wrote it, but I'm not sure if it's good. And we're like, you're fine. I've never had it be a problem in 21 years. And they insist that a patent attorney review it. So I know this one patent attorney that will work with our students that have filed provisional using Smart IP. And most patent attorneys don't want to do that. They want to get a bunch of money out of you. They want to make a few bucks because they're so arrogant. A lot of them, they don't think that an inventor is capable of writing a PPA, which can be written in common English. But anyway, we sent with 4 of our students' permission provisionals that our students wrote with Smart IP to this patent agent, and he's like, whoa, these are really good. A lot of times I get really terrible provisionals from inventors, but these are really good. And so yeah, I don't know what I can say, Caleb. I mean, it's not a lot of money. You still got to pay the patent office fee of $75 if you're a micro entity. There's a formula. You can go on the patent office. I think I don't quote me on the numbers. It's under 150 or 180 annual household income. I don't know if that's it, but there's a formula now. You can fill it out and figure out if you qualify as a microentity. But if you don't, it's 150. But most people qualify as a microentity. It's 75. I know that people file, and I've never really seen it ever become an issue. I know that people file as a microentity, even though they are making more money than they did the spreadsheet on there. And I've never seen that get anybody in trouble, but it could. So you should always use a spreadsheet to figure it out. Um, I guess only if the provisional is an issue would it ever matter anyway. And I've never had a student of ours ever need to use the provisional patent date because the past patent was in question. So if that 1 year from the provisional to the full patent is an issue, they might, arbitration or in court or whatever, go back and see what you actually wrote in your provisional. I have never had a student ever that's had to do that. So another reason why people shouldn't get obsessed over the provisional. Do a good job, but don't get obsessed over it. So Caleb, what I would say is, if you want to get obsessed over something, get obsessed over your marketing materials. They're not even going to want to look at your provisional if they're not interested in your product and your marketing. So that's way more important. Again, just trying to make a point. Do a good job with both. Let's see. Marlon, when we come to IR coaching program with, let's say, 3 idea solutions, can you help by choosing the closest one which has the possibility to be licensed? Absolutely, and we love that when people come on board and they sign up to be a student, and the coaches can go over upsides and downsides of number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you thought number 1 was the bomb. The coach is like, no, it's totally number 2. This is a nice, simple first project's more likely to get licensed. And that's a great learning process. And I love that when students want to do that. Now, it's not the coach's opinion, okay? It's their opinion based on facts. So sometimes the inventor will have 3 inventions or more. We usually try to whittle it down to 3 or 5 so it's doable, give them some criteria, because we're just looking for a nice, simple first project to work on. And the inventor doesn't have enough information. It's not like your coach is gonna, like, you got a dog toy, you got a medical device, and you got an automotive product. And the coach is supposed to be an expert in all those categories? No, of course not. They need to base their opinion on the market research. And if they see you haven't done it, they're going to say, well, you haven't done it. You need to do this in each one of these 3. Bring that information. We'll figure it out together, and I'll tell you which is the product you're most likely to license with the least effort. So that's how we handle it. I love that question. But that is a skill that new inventors don't have for the most part. You need to understand how to pick your projects carefully. Now, at the beginning, you just want to get up and running and you just want to work on a project. So it doesn't have to be a perfect project. But after you've been licensing for a while, I've noticed our students get a lot more picky, not just because I like it. I'm going to study the market and I'm going to base the fact that I want to work on this product on not emotion, but facts. And people aren't always there with their first project, but they get more with it with their second or third or fourth. So I don't know if I could pronounce this name. My gosh, Boteab? Okay, sorry if I butchered it. How can I sell my idea even though I don't live in the U.S.? So in the United States, we've had students in 65 countries. Boteab, they don't care. You just need good ideas. And now, mostly, if you're going to focus on the U.S. and Canada and Europe, but if you're in India or if you're in parts of Asia, you're probably not going to license to companies that just sell in those countries. Now, companies that, like it's an Asian company or a European company, and they're selling in the U.S., that's the same as a U.S. company to me, because they have to have patents in the U.S. and you can protect it in the U.S. So that's the same thing. So they don't care where the idea comes from, but don't limit yourself to your own country, okay? Because in some countries, They just don't respect intellectual property as much, patents and things, and they're not as open to outside ideas. The U.S. and Canada most open, and Europe is after that. Even Australia, we have tons of students in Australia. I think even maybe more than even Canada. But the companies there, even though it's a very large country, landmass, but there's not a lot of people there, still not nearly as open as Europe, US, and Canada. But US and Canada being the most open, Europe being after that, and everything's kind of downhill from there. But it could be a South African company that is really big in the US, Canada, or Europe, but mostly you're focusing there, and you never limit yourself to your home country. Okay. So you got to do a little bit more research. Who are the retailers, but you can do that all online. If you need to make a phone call, you can use Skype. Put $10 in your Skype account. You can call a U.S. phone number. Okay. Mohammed, hello from Iran. So we got a real international crowd tonight. Welcome, Mohammed. That's great. Let's see. Asai Hernandez. Best DRTV advice. DRTV, or infomercials as they used to call it. They do these ads on TV, or they're on the internet now, the sham wow or whatever. My advice with DRTV is, we've never had one of our students that I know of get knocked off by a company they presented to. So, trying to license it to a brand, and then later they knock you off. That hasn't happened to our students because they conduct themselves professionally. If it's going to happen somewhere, it's probably, and we haven't had that happen in DRTV, but it's probably more likely to happen in DRTV. They're kind of like DRTV and infomercials. It's about making money overnight. That's where they're thinking. They're trying to make money very quick, very fast, big hit. They're only interested in really big hits. So you're either going to make no money at all or a lot of money. So it's a little bit of a get rich quickie kind of vibe to it. And, these DRTV companies, they do knock each other off. A lot more lawsuits there and other places. So you need to be willing to swim with the sharks if you're going to do infomercial DRTV. If you're really skittish about being ripped off, there's probably not a good product category to stand. Again, we've had our students license quite a few DRTV products, and we've never had one of them ripped off because they're conducting themselves professionally. But some of those companies are a little sharky, so be okay with that. If you're okay with that, great. Sometimes you got a product that's for DRTV infomercials, but it's also great for the standard consumer product companies in the store. Reach out to all of them. But if you're a little skittish already, I don't recommend the category. Maybe get your feet wet and then maybe get into it. Upside of it is you can make a lot of money really quick because they agree to like really high minimum guarantees, like crazy. Like if they're not selling a lot, they're going to kick it back to you anyway, which is good and bad. Which is another product, maybe you're just making $20K a year in royalties and it sells for 8 years. So what is that? $160K. Or it's making you $50K a year in royalties, sells for 5 years, it's $250,000. They're not interested in products doing that low of sales. They got to go big. So sometimes they'll do minimum guarantees of $250,000 a year or something crazy like that. But a lot of the products they test fail, and then they kick it right back to you. So they can hold your product up a little bit. But I think it's a fine category to work in. But if you're skittish about being ripped off or just generally, I don't think it's a good for a first product. But if you're not, and you're like, hey, I'm okay with that risk, Andrew, then go for it. Misha, hey, hello, Andrew and all. Thank you for doing the Q&A. You're welcome, Misha. Ellen says, thank you for doing this. Smiley face, you're welcome. Rodolo, I tried to license my product idea without success. Is it okay if I try to make it myself? I really like the idea and did small marketing research that came back 70% positive. I don't know about what you mean by marketing research, but they've proven that when you do marketing research and focus groups and things that 90% of the people that said they would buy it, when you ask them to open up their wallet, won't. So take the marketing research. People say they like it on Facebook. Doesn't mean anything. Nothing. If you did a test to see what people click on, see if what the interest level is, like the way you run an ad or something, there's can be benefits of that. I always worry about the inventor that is so in love with their product that when they decide their business model is the license, the empowering model that you don't have to raise money, don't have to hire employees, don't need to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, which for almost every product you have to raise that amount of money. You can't start and sell a product with 20K. It's not going to happen. All right. You'll run out of money. And I talk to inventors that do that all the time. So you love your product so much. Oh, I can't license it. Well, now I'll just try to sell it myself. Well, know what you're getting yourself into. Um, Steve, another co-founder, Stephen Key, he's done like nothing but licensed products his entire life. But it was, I don't know, about 6 years ago or so. He did these little guitar picks. Then they were a shape of Mickey Mouse. He changed the shape of the guitar pick, skulls and things like that. Sold more at 7-Eleven than it did at music stores, and kids loved to collect it, and they were picking it up at convenience stores and stuff. He started that business with $200,000. He has plenty of money. And he just, this is the only time he's ventured anything in his life and sold it himself. And he started getting orders and $200,000 on a 6-cent product. It only cost him 6 cents to manufacture. Wasn't enough. So never underestimate the kind of money that it takes. And if you launch it in some sort of meager, I'm going to sell it on Etsy kind of way, you're just giving everybody plenty of time to knock you off. So what I would say is, why not, if you really believe in it, work on licensing some more products, put that on the shelf for a bit, and then push it back out to all the same companies 6 or 8 months later and see if you can license it. Now, also, maybe you're not licensing it because your marketing materials suck. Maybe you're not reaching out the right way. Maybe you're not saying the right things. Maybe you're not reaching the right companies. I would give it a good 80 to 90% chance, Rodolo, that you didn't really give it the InventRight go as in the way that we would coach our students to do it. Now, occasionally I see people, I'm like, oh yeah, you played that out. But most of the time, I'm like, wow, this marketing sucks. Your list of companies is all wrong. Oh, you're saying that to companies? Oh, yeah, so when you say I tried, but I didn't have success, what did you try? We don't have time to go into that here. My guess is you didn't give it the same attention and do the right things that an InventRight student would do if they were being coached. So with that said, don't put it in the closet, and bring it out 6 or 8 months later and hope that the same one that said no is now showing interest. You can do that, but if you're doing all that stuff wrong, you're just going to do all wrong all over again. So I can't completely answer your question there. Spunky Monkey, hi Andrew, do you have any strategies or techniques when asking for a signing bonus or second best in advance on royalties? What is the best way to word it when asking? So the best way to get some money up front is an advance on royalties to pay for patents. That is probably the easiest thing to do. So let's say you get a quote from a patent attorney. Let's say they're pretty reasonable and it's $8,000 to file a utility patent. You filed a provisional and you want that advance on royalties. So what that means is they would give you $8,000 and you would utilize that to pay your patent attorney. Now, sometimes if people have already wasted money or risked money filing a patent, you've already paid it, then you just put it in your pocket. But and then they keep the first $8,000 in royalties. Other times you can say, hey, let's split it. I'll pay for half, you pay for half, but it always stays in your name. So those are some easy ways, and they're not directly answering your question because what I'm talking about here, the kind of advance that's the easiest to get is to pay for a patent so it will protect you and me. And that's the easiest to get. Sometimes they don't want to pay for a patent, and then you just ask for an advance, and you take that money and you put it towards the patent. The same freaking thing. It's funny how you can say the same thing to a company, they'll agree to one thing but not to another. You really don't want to do it very much. It's really, they're investing, tens, if not in some cases, maybe $100,000 to launch this product, but maybe, 10, 20, 50, 60K, and they haven't made a dime, and it might fail and they'll lose that money. And for you to ask for much money up front before they've made a dime and they're taking all the risk and doing all the work, it doesn't sit very well with them, even large companies. The time where it makes a lot of sense, if you've started your own business, you have inventory, you have distribution, you have all that, and great, but that's not what you guys should be doing. If you can just license it without having sold a single one. I'm going to turn this AC off here. In that case, you're kind of selling your company plus doing a licensing deal, but you really just don't want to do it. It just hinders moving the deal forward. But sometimes our students are in a financially difficult position and they could really use 5K, 8K, 10K or something like that. Is it okay to bring it up? Yeah, but even if it's something that could be earning you 200K a year in royalties or 100K or something, for you to ask for 100K up front, you're pretty much trying to kill the deal when you do that sort of thing. But if people are like, hey, I spent all this money on my invention. I know I shouldn't do it. I wouldn't follow the InventRight approach up till now. And I could really use 10K or something like that. Can you get that? Absolutely, you can. And you got to be careful about how you go about it. Um, but best way is in advance on royalties, because then that's money out of their pocket, but they're going to keep that first money, or it could just be in advance, you know. But for the most part, we're all about helping people do deals, so we really try to discourage the inventor away from doing it. They're committing in the contract to committing to money, timelines, all that sort of thing. Don't get greedy. It's a notorious deal killer. Um, uh, yeah. Lindsay said, "What annual revenue amount would be considered a small, medium, large company?" I've been subscribed and very thankful for your channel. So, Stephen or other co-founders sometimes will say, stay away from the large companies, go for the medium-sized companies. I define it more specifically. I would say stay away from the mega corporations, and large and medium-sized companies are great. So you can license to large companies just for a consumer product. Some of you doing an industrial product, but for a consumer product that sell in like a Walmart or a Target all day long. But a few of those companies are what I call mega corporations, like Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, Google, Apple. They're just they're just behemoths. You're not going to license to them, and they have certain policies on their website. They're making it pretty clear. Like when a company says you have to have an issued patent, that's just freaking stupid. That's not open innovation. That's just ridiculous. And don't think that's normal, and don't run out and get an issue. I mean, think about it. P&G has on their site, for example, if they had, which I believe they still do, they did at some point, they'll look at it, but they'll only license a product with an issued patent. So you're going to file a patent, spend 10 grand or more with a patent attorney, sit around waiting 1 to 3 years for it to issue, and then approach them to get rejected because they're still not going to license it. Okay. So the mega corporations, I'm not big on. But you can add them to your list, fine. But if they have distribution where you want to be, you should reach out to them. But the mega corporations are very, very hard. You don't need to look up what dollar figures they do. That's just a waste of time. You don't need to look up all the minute details of a company and learn everything about them. That's just a waste of time. Now, if you approach 30 companies and the 3 show interest, dig deep into those 3. But if the company's selling at a major retailer where you want to be, that's all you need to know. If they're selling products that are kind of in the right product category, that's all you need to know. Don't do any more research like that. That's a waste of time. So you don't need, who asked that question, Lindsay? You don't need to define annual revenue or small, medium, or large. You're being too timid about it when you do that. If they're in a major retailer, they're big enough. Now, it's not just how big they are, it's what is their plan for your product. So you can find this really big company that has small plans for your invention. I remember talking to this one inventor, and it was a really big company, but when they got into it, the company, they're like, oh, we just launched it on just walmart.com, not Walmart. And I'm like, well, that's a whole different story. That could be anybody can get on walmart.com, just like Amazon. So they want to just put their toe in. Now you might have a large or a smaller company that has big plans for it. No, we'll do this, and this. Oh yeah, we'll agree to those minimums. We believe in this. We're going to push it out here. Our salesperson said we can sell it. So, you don't want to just evaluate the size of the company, but what's their plan for the product. So a medium or large company, might do a lot better than one of these mega corporations because they're going to push it out. And the mega corporations, I mean, I could count on two hands most of them. I'm talking about very few companies that I put in the mega corporation territory. Okay. Um, William, a master distributor is so large that they sell to distributors. In effect, they compete with manufacturing and marketing companies head to head. Can we license to a master distributor? A master distributor is so large that they sell to distributors. No, because they don't care about you. You license to a brand. And maybe that brand uses a distributor, maybe they don't, but you license to a brand. You don't license to distributors. And sometimes our students get confused on this. They're like, well, oh yeah, they say they like it and they'll buy 500 units. I'm like, well, that's not licensing. Now where it gets more complicated is distributors just sell product. So they might work for smaller manufacturers, maybe even the large ones, and they distribute the product, okay? And they then work with Walmart or some other big retailer, right? Um, and some companies do that. So approaching that distributor, they want a manufacturer that is advertising, pushing the product. They don't want your rinky-dink product because they know you're not promoting it, right? And distributors want companies that are promoting the product and that there's a demand. So now some distributors, they manufacture 10% of their own product and 90% distributing other people's stuff. But when you get a distributor, you ask them if you realize, like, oh, we'll buy 500 units. You're going to tool up and manufacture for them, sell 500 units, kick half it back to you because it didn't sell. And people get so flattered they want to buy some units, then they change their whole business model. Well, now I won't go licensing. Now I'm going to just make it and sell it to this one distributor. And it's like, really? Really? Have you thought that through? Now, if the distributor really likes it, you can talk to a brand and say, hey, this distributor really likes it. They'll sell it, distribute it if you license it. So um, no, you're going to be licensing to a brand, William. Soren, yeah, I talked to you the other day. Soren, welcome to the chat. He's from Romania. I think it's probably pretty late where you are, 12:40 or so, but I guess you stay up late. Angel said, if I buy the $3,000 package, I think he's talking about our one-on-one coaching, you help patent, make 3D model, and shop it out to buyers. No, Angel, you do. We're coaching and mentoring you. Now, we do the 3D model. We do the advertising piece. You work with your coach on it. You write the provisional, and you're going to reach out to companies, but the coach is going to make sure all that is right for you. They're going to make sure you did your research. They're going to work with you on the marketing. We're not one of these invention scam companies that say, we'll do it all for you, and a year later, you got nothing to show for it because we were pretending to work on it. You're working on it. You know it's happening because you're freaking doing it. So no, we don't do it for you, but you're going to do it. And we'll give you the confidence to do it because you're going to be on talking to a coach every single week and they're going to be guiding you. But we're not going to do it for you and we take no percentage whatsoever. Rafat, hi Andrew, can you get a company license with just a drawing and a good sell sheet? Well, it depends on what you mean. Yeah, good sell sheet, yes, that's what you need. What you mean by a drawing. We do virtual prototypes for our students and they look really nice. You don't want to do a drawing that looks like you sketched it with crayons or looks really crude. You want it to look like a real product, but you can do a virtual prototype to accomplish that. In some industries like novelty, where you need to show them a bunch of ideas before you license one, there are some companies that were like, yeah, you could show me something fairly crude. I'm okay with that. But most industries, you need to do something more refined with regards to the prototype. So, but yeah, you don't need an actual prototype to license, not at all. That shocks people. Hassan, hi Andrew. So I only have a PPA. Don't say only, that's great. And I was wondering if I could get a potential licensee an exclusive license with just a PPA. Yes, 90 to 95% of our students, that's all they have. Can you please elaborate more about this? I think I just did. All you need is a PPA. And you can do licensing deals with a PPA. Enough said. Our students do it all the time. So what we advise people to do, We get people to come on board that become students that made the mistake. Yes, it is a mistake to file a full utility patent. Why wouldn't you utilize the year the patent office gives you to go fishing? And so with our students, we advise them to file a provisional like the week before they're ready to start calling them, where they get the whole year. You never need the whole year using our approach because we show you how to push it out, right? And three or 4 months, if it has legs, okay, maybe it drags another 3 or 4 months, but you never need the whole year. Occasionally with certain product categories, maybe on really difficult like packaging products where it's just insane money involved. But I would say 98% of the time, you'd never need more than a year. Now, don't freak out if you filed the provisional before because you want to get the warm and fuzzies, you're protected, but you're sitting on your hands. You can file that provisional again if you haven't made public disclosure. You get a year from the new one. Only costs you another $75. So a lot of people go, oh, but I only have a month left in my PPA. My attorney said if I want to preserve my filing rights, I need to file a full utility. And I go, screw your patent attorney. That was a lie. And patent attorneys, sometimes they do this because they want to get you signed up with a $10,000 patent, but they kind of lied to you. They didn't tell you, oh, you didn't make public disclosure. Oh, you can file. You lose your filing date you lose your preservation date, your bookmark in time with that original provisional, but you can file another one, get a year from the state. But they don't like giving that advice because it hurts their business. So they lead some inventors to believe that if you don't file that the patent before that provisional runs out, you lose all your rights. They don't say it like that, but they lead you to believe that. And a lot of inventors fall for it. I think there's a lot of patent attorneys that don't like me because I have caught an inventor. They aren't a student of ours, but I'm talking. They're telling me, "Oh, we're going to have to file a patent," and I'm like, "Why? Have you shown it publicly? No. Why? Well, why don't you just file it again? Oh, yeah, but what if somebody patents it in that time, Andrew? I'm like, I haven't seen it happen with one of our students. It could, but is that worth $10,000? And they're most of the time, no. You just saved me 10 grand, Andrew. So I save our non-students that money all the time because they did a sales call with me and they wanted to talk about our coaching program and they're in that situation. I don't care if they sign up or they don't, but I don't want them to get taken advantage of. And the patent attorneys are very careful about how they say it, but and some of them will go, oh yeah, you could do that, but the inventor doesn't know to say that. And they want to, but there's a lot of good patent attorneys out there, but there's a lot of ones that just want to get you signed up, you know. Um, so, mm, Scuba Steve, do you guys help out with someone's PPA without having to sign up for the $3,000 InventRight coaching program? If so, how much does it typically take to get help with just the PPA? So yeah, it's cheap. So when you sign up with our coaching program, file unlimited PPAs, but you can buy all the smart IP software on our website for $99, Scuba Steve, and you can. It's funny saying that handle, but and then you just have to pay the patent office fee of $75. You don't have a $75. You don't have a coach. I'm talking so fast, I'm getting all jumbled up. You don't have a coach guiding you on what variations could be, stuff like that. But you can just go on our website, go on to other services, and look up. I think file a PPA or whatever, and it's called Smart IP. So you can go on there. So yeah, if you want to do it on your own, I highly advise don't run out and you can spend 15 to 2,500 with a patent attorney to file a PPA, and that's cheaper than 10 grand for a patent. But why would you do that when you could do it yourself? Because provisional patents can be written in common English for those of you that are new. You don't have to write it in that patent speak. Geez, let's do some questions other than PPA stuff. My God, because it's so many more important things in provisional patents. Melanie, that happened to me at the coaching, choosing an idea from your list that is the best to start with. I would say be coachable the entire step of the way. It truly gets you farther. Thank you, Melanie. So you were an InventRight student, it sounds like. Yeah, yeah. Our coaches are able to help students that are completely in love with their idea, and the coach sees that there needs to be things changed to make it licensable. And then they're also love it when somebody's like, hey, I got 3 ideas. I'm willing to work on any of these. Guide me, but we're always honest with people. We're not going to let people try to license a lump of coal. If we're going to say that's a lump of coal, We might say, okay, or we might say, this is the product, but we forced the inventor to do the research because they didn't want to look at it. And we're like, well, there's this and this and this. Here's how we're going to handle this. Here's how we're going to make this product better. I was on a coaching call with one of our students and one of our coaches today, and we're helping her change her product because her point of difference is not clear. But we actually took a look back at some things she said, and we helped her pull that out. And she's like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. But if we had let her move forward with exactly the way she wanted it to be, it wouldn't be as licensable. So we're always about being honest, about making it right there. And when we help our students with stuff, they own everything. If coach says, oh, you can improve it like this, it's all the students. We don't take a percentage or anything like that. Shannon, I filed 5 PPAs years ago, was unable to get it licensed. Since then, there is a new company that it would be extremely interested in this product. Can I file the same PPA without making any changes? Yes, you can. It's a very niche market, so very few companies to approach. Well, that's not good. I mean, if you work on products, again, if you had 3 or 4 or 20 ideas, you don't pick the one that you only have 3 potential licensees. Pick the one you have 30, because that's 30 chances for success. If you have 3, that's 3 chances for success. But if you really believe in it, and it only is another $75 just to approach that one company, go for it, if you want to. Michael says, hi, Andrew, what's the difference from a sell sheet and a 3D virtual 3D? So a sell sheet is a marketing piece. It's a one-page PDF that you email. It's an advertising piece. So if it's making it more comfortable to ride your exercise bike, you're showing that. Like, let's say it's a new, I'm just making stuff up randomly here. Let's say it's a new seat for your exercise bike that's more comfortable. Well, you have a marketing piece. You guys have seen advertisements. Most of you live in the US, or a lot of you do. We're bombarded with advertising. But for some reason, when inventors are doing their own products, they suck at it. And it's like, really, you've been looking at advertising your entire life. You can't do better than that. And so we really help our students to tweak their marketing brain in for their own products. But, in their defense, I have students that are professional marketers, and the coach is like, this sell sheet's not good enough because it's their own product. When it's hard, when it's your own product and you're in love with your product, or you're wrapped up in it, maybe you're in love with it, maybe you don't know, but you are. And it's hard to be objective. And that's the real benefit of having a coach. So it's a one-page PDF that you email, and it's showing the benefits of the product. Like, makes it easier to ride an exercise bike, and you have some benefits, you have a picture or two. And so, for instance, if you didn't have this exercise bike seat, but we could create a virtual seat, so you're showing the product, but it's not real. But you're like, well, I know they can make it, so why am I going to run out and spend $5,000 on this prototype? Right? So that's the difference. The 3D virtual prototype goes in the sell sheet as the picture of the product itself. So hopefully that was helpful, Michael. Waleed, hi, Andrew. Is it easy to license to car companies like Opel, Volkswagen? Opel still exists? Wow. No, it sucks. So automotive aftermarket, let's say you have some 4-wheel drive accessories, tons of companies. Easy. I've had students licensed in that category because you have all these automotive aftermarket products. Could be aftermarket rims, a muffler, this, or that, all sorts of aftermarket stuff. Huge, massive market, and they're very open. But to license to a Volkswagen or a GM or whoever, it's brutal. And I get students all the time, oh, I want this should go in every car off the line. I'm like, dude, that's going to increase the cost of every car by $500. You think they want to do that? Car companies are all about reducing costs. Now, we had one of our students do it. This is an unusual scenario. This dude was really smart. He had filed like 8 patents before he came to us. And we said, this is very hard to license to an automotive company. But we guided him. And there's a sad ending to the story, not for him, but for us as a company. And we guided him he licensed to a major automotive company, which is next to impossible to do. He's the only student that we've ever had do it. Most of the time we discourage people from even trying. Um, and we say, well, I say, well, no, this product could be an automotive aftermarket product. Go there. Don't go to Volkswagen and GM and Ford because it's not going to happen. But in this case, he wanted to do it, and we helped him, and he licensed it, and he could buy probably his own freaking island with what he made from this deal. But after the fact, he didn't tell us this. He said, I signed an NDA with this major automotive company that said I wasn't even supposed to be talking to you guys. And we were the ones that helped him close the deal behind the scenes. And so he couldn't do a success story. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. But it's probably for the better because it's so hard to do. If we had a student success story that was a major automotive company, we get a bunch of other people want to do, well, he did it. And then, they were more than likely fail. So it's probably for the better. But Stephen and I really worked very hard on that. And that was very disappointing because our students, most of the time, they're like, oh, yeah, you guys are so helpful. I'll give you a testimonial as to how you guys helped, as how your negotiation coach Paul and my coach helped and all that. You guys were great. But yeah, I would figure out, Waleed, how to make that automotive aftermarket. I wouldn't advise you trying to license to an automotive company to my worst enemy. Well, maybe my worst enemy, but that's it. I don't really have any of those. But if I did, I would advise them. I'd say, yeah, you should get into lice doing that just to make them suffer. So hopefully I got my point across there. Carlos says, thank you, Andrew, for bringing so much value to the public. Yankee says, do any of your students that have made deals with big company partner up with new inventors? No, they're much more, every inventor is more interested in their product than another inventor's product. So this is kind of a little bit of a joke. Having run an inventors association for 14 years in Silicon Valley, been doing InventRight for 21 years, I always say another inventor is the last person that's ever going to steal your idea because they always think their ideas are better and they're more interested in their ideas. So they would not be the right people to approach. Now, I get the idea, oh, well, they've had success, they've licensed products, they've been through it. But my answer is don't be so lazy. You can do it, Yankee. It sounds like a funny thing to say. You just got your handle there. But Yankee, you can do it. You can't have ideas. The product idea is 5. I'm being incredibly generous to say 10% of the process. The rest of it is reaching out to companies, doing your marketing material, doing your PPA, and doing that work. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. Anybody can do it, but nobody's going to be as excited about your product as you. So don't try to get another inventor and wrangle them to do it on the comm or for a percentage. They're just not going to be as excited about it as their own product. If you can find somebody, great, but and don't go out there approaching our students because that's inappropriate, okay? Because they don't want to be getting hit up for that. I've had a few students tell me, people reach out and they're like, why would I want to do their idea? I got mine. I can keep 100% if I do my idea. Why do I want to take even just 50%, So Nazarene, yeah, we addressed this earlier. We can help people outside the U.S. We've had students in 65 countries. So absolutely. Last question, then we're going to call it a night. If you have any thank yous or anything. And I want to remind you, please subscribe to the channel. So if you feel like the Q&A was helpful today, please subscribe. We'd like to get, I don't know what we're at, 48,000 subscribers, I'm guessing. I haven't looked in a while. Up to 80,000 in the next 8 months. So just by subscribing, that would be really, really appreciate that. Ellen said, I made a list of companies in my product that sell in big stores. Great. Having a hard time finding their contact information to figure out who to send the sell sheet to. Well, we teach our students to find marketing managers on LinkedIn, and then also finding the company website, corporate website. It's pretty freaking easy. It's pretty easy. You got to figure out the name of the company, go at company XYZ corporate site or something like that, and then you can also find them on LinkedIn. Yeah. So Sam 911, you're welcome. William said Opel sold their company to a French company. It's a major market are China and Japan. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they sell some really unusual cars in China, some cheap cars. It's kind of amusing. I think the safety level is back, going way, way back. Um, Lana said, thank you so much, Andrew. This is a fabulous input on your part. Michael said, very helpful. The Korean said, thank you. So we hit the hour. I'm gonna Okay, so next week I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be on vacation. I never go on vacation, so I'm not going to be here next Monday, but I'll be here the Monday after. For those of you who haven't checked out inventright.com, check out our website. Keep watching our YouTube videos. And if you're interested, click on the coaching menu on our website to learn more about how we can help you and to subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch up with you guys next time. Take care and keep inventing. See you guys. Bye.